I won't tolerate that. I will not have any jurors intimidated in this courtroom. I want to make that crystal clear. Eventually, 7 jurors were sworn in. Of course, there was one who went home, immediately was identified as the juror by friends and family, and then said, I can't do this. What do you think the rest of these people are going to do? Now, there is an interesting case here. Politico reports 2 of the Trump jurors are lawyers. Would they acquit on a technicality? This is interesting. Now, certainly ideology plays a huge role. And if they're woke, they don't care what the law says. But if these are run-of-the-mill lawyers, they might actually just be like, he's not guilty on a technicality. They might be like, there's no underlying crime. They might say, I'm a lawyer. I know what I'm talking about. They may put ego in front of everything else and say, I know better than all of you and what the DA is saying and the judge. I'm a lawyer. Watching this on YouTube, what you see is the arrest of Isra Hersey, Ilhan Omar's daughter, at Columbia University. Over the past week or so, there's been a massive occupation of Columbia by, and I'm going to get a lot of people mad by saying this, but it is very much pro-Hamas and anti-Jewish protesters. But I'll clarify before everyone gets angry. The protest at its core is opposed to Israel and what Israel is doing in Gaza. And that I can understand. People protesting military action by a country targeting a group of people that many believe has become excessive. Now, I don't have any good moral answers for you as it pertains to war. The problem is, however, what's emerged over the past several days is not about anti-Israel in its actions, though its message may be. Many of these protesters have physically attacked Jewish people for looking Jewish. And again, I'll be the first when, we have someone, we had, like when Elad was on the show, for instance. Elad Eliyahu, who is Jewish, and he reports for SCNR.com, had said something to the effect of criticizing Israel was rooted in some kind of anti-Semitism. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'll criticize and say, no. Absolutely criticize Israel. Absolutely 100%. Israel deserves to be criticized for a lot of things. Nobody's perfect, but we are dealing with war and very difficult conversations. Most importantly, I don't know why we're involved in this foreign conflict. But again, and I'm coming right off the bat, I watch a video where a Jewish guy is simply trying to walk through campus and they link arms and block him, screaming at him. And that's it. One guy had his flag taken from him and destroyed. Now, you steal an Israeli flag from somebody and burn it, not anti-Semitic. I would not say so. This was a political ideology, country versus country. But when a guy simply looks Jewish, when a woman simply looks Jewish, and the protesters start coming after them, and many of these protesters are chanting overt support for Hamas, I'm like, guys, I think it's fair to say this is in action very much anti-Jewish. Now, hold on. I would say this to the protesters. You want to criticize Israel, you should do so. But when you're on video surrounding Jewish people, you're starting to lose that narrative because there's no reason to target and identify and target a person simply because they're Jewish as being Israeli. We saw this at Cooper Union, which is another college in New York, where Jewish students were forced into, I believe it was a cafeteria, as the far left was banging and screaming on the doors. Okay. So here's what's happening. We have a lot of big news coming out of Columbia. We also have Yale University, MIT, the shocking rise of what is at its core an anti-Israel movement. And the reason I stress the Columbia thing, and it's kind of tough too, but I'm not going to mince words. The protesters don't differentiate between Israeli and Jewish. They're all Zionists. I get called a Zionist for saying exactly what I said. This is the craziest thing. Because it's not necessarily just a left thing. There's like a weird faction on the right as well that is anti-quote-unquote Zionist. And what's crazy about it is, let me explain to all of you who may not be familiar. Look, because I'm going to stress this again. There are a lot of people who are very critical of Israel, libertarian, anti-war, and I respect that tremendously. But some people need to understand this. There is a large faction of people on the left and on the right that believe the word Zionist does not mean that you support Israel expansionism and a religious state. Zionist to these people means you recognize the existence of Israel, period. But I'll clarify that further. I get called a Zionist because if someone says, do you know what Israel is? I go, yeah, it's a country. Ah, we got you. You called it a country. The left views Zionism as anyone who believes Israel exists because it's actually Palestine. You get my point? It's weird. So when someone called me a Zionist, I was like, I'm for defunding. I oppose the U.S. funding foreign war, be it Ukraine or Israel. And they're like, oh, so you think Israel exists, huh? And I'm like, what do you mean? Israel's right there in the map. Aha! We got you, you Zionist. And I'm like, what? All right. Now that I've sufficiently pissed everybody off right at the start of this video, let me tell you about what's going on and show you some of these videos. And I want to look. So the news is Columbia University cancels all in-person classes as protests dominate campus, and after-school rabbi issued shocking warning to Jewish students. It was, what was it, like a couple of years ago? There was a protest at Cooper Union. Jewish students were locked in a room. They said, like, the media reported they were locked in an attic, and I'm like, calm down, guys. We get the reference. But no student should be locked in a room or guarded in a room as the other students have done it. The Biden administration has done it. They have outright said that you are racist if you discriminate against criminals. And let's break that down for a second. The convenience store chain Sheetz, with hundreds of outlets in 6 states, has been hit with a discrimination lawsuit by the EEOC under Biden. They said that requiring a criminal background check is racist. I'm going to let that one sink in for a minute for you. They called Donald Trump a white nationalist, and it is the EEOC under Joe Biden that is saying, and I'm going to stress this again, if you apply for a job and that job requires a criminal background check, they're discriminating against non-white people. Okay, they're flat out saying white people have a lower crime rate. Wow. Now, I'm sure the left will come up with some convoluted explanation and conspiracy around white privilege as to why this makes sense. They'll say something like, white police officers disproportionately target people of color, and therefore they're more likely to have high crime rates. And see, it's not about them being criminals. It's about the fact that if a white guy and a black guy commit the same crime, the black guy goes to jail. And therefore, when he applies for a job, he ain't going to get it. Well, there certainly is some truth to that. It is true. I think the issue has more to do with perhaps underlying biases, crime rates, and neighborhoods. If there's a neighborhood that is high crime and a cop sees a guy committing a crime, he's likely going to be like, okay, we're taking action. But this has been changing somewhat. Or they're more likely to investigate a crime under the assumption it's a high crime neighborhood. So let's put it this way. Let's say there's two people. One guy's in a better off. This image is terrifying for me. Terrifying in a lot of ways. On the left, you have January 6th. On the right, you have Congress waving Ukrainian flags. The terrifying thing is that the people on the left are waving American flags. There's Gadsden flags and there's Trump flags. I'm not a big fan of the Trump flags, but what I can say for that is it's a flag of an American president. And the American flags are symbols of this country. And the Gadsden flags is a symbol of the ideas behind the revolution. Don't tread on me. The idea ultimately being, leave me alone, let me live my life. We'll all do the same thing. On the right, you have Ukrainian flags. People in our Congress who are saying that Ukraine's border is our border. That's a quote. The context being that we have to stop Russia. And if Russia were to win. So this image terrifies me for a lot of reasons. I don't agree with fighting with cops and storming the Capitol. I don't agree with how January 6th went down. I think it was bad. I think the people that fought cops should get criminal charges. I don't know. What do you get? A couple months, maybe? Maybe probation? No, they're getting 20 years. The people on the left are motivated by a They're motivated by a deep sense of fear that evil people are siphoning money away from the people and causing problems. I do think January 6th was absolutely wrong. But that's not what's scary to me. What's scary to me is the picture on the right. Well, we can certainly say that riots are wrong. You shouldn't do these things. And, these people who believed the election was stolen. And what I mean by stolen in this context is like a foreign government intervened and globalists and all that stuff. I certainly think that Democrats, many of whom are seen waving Ukrainian flags, play dirty games. But the rules are set. And I think for a lot of Trump supporters, they realized elections aren't about convincing people. Many of these people were first-time voters, and they didn't understand this. that Donald Trump won the argument was meaningless because Democrats collected more ballots. That's all that matters, universal mail-in voting. So I will stress this again. There were many people on January 6th waving American flags, had no idea what was going on. It's scary that the people who committed the crimes on January 6th, and I'm going to stress this again, I'm talking about the people who ripped the barricades down, the people like Ray Epps, he's been criminally charged, the people who pushed cops and were fighting cops and smashing things. It's crazy to me that these people who actually smashed windows and stormed into the Capitol, not the bumbling dotards and the people who are confused. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the actual rioters. It's crazy to me that at the very least they like this country. And that's not saying a lot for smashing up the Capitol. I got to stress this too. I've defended a lot of J6ers, but I want to make sure it's clear the deep offense I feel to some of the people who were there, the rioters, all of them actually, the ones literally attacking cops, but there were artifacts that were damaged and destroyed. That is deeply offensive to me. There was like this old writing desk or something. And there were a few things. It's not like the damage was burning down buildings and firebombing, federal buildings or anything like that. But I'm just going to say that I wish it didn't happen. And I think it's wrong and it should not happen. What's on the right with Ukrainian flags terrifies me. January 6th doesn't terrify me. A riot doesn't terrify me. People smashing into a building and fighting cops does not terrify me. It's disconcerting. But at no point were the J6ers going to do anything to this country. Standing inside of a building would not change the function of this nation. Occupying a capital would not change the function of this country. It is not the 1600s. Taking a building is meaningless. But waving the flags of a foreign nation, that's deeply disconcerting. I'm going to play this clip for you. This clip is deeply disconcerting.
Some say, well, we have to deal with our border first. The Ukrainian-Russian border is our border. Some say, well, we have to deal with...
This is Gerald Connolly, a Democrat from Virginia's 11th District, Reston, Centerville, Fairfax, and Burke. Really close to where we live. We go to Reston quite a bit. They got good food down there. I think Reston's actually where Barcelona is. And I've shouted them out before because they rock. It's a tapas restaurant. Trust me, you go there, it will change your life. It's so good. Everything there is just absolutely amazing. Charcuterie. Oh, man. Shout out. I love the chicken. Anyway, I digress. I love these places. They're nice places. They're very wealthy places. Now, the greater context here was he was saying something to the effect of, Russia will advance. It'll go after NATO. It's going to drag us all into this. And, of course, this is the clip. The Ukrainian-Russian border is our border. This was in response to me posting this image is terrifying. The terrifying image to me is people in our government waving the flag of a foreign nation. Not because it's saying that they've subverted this country or they hate America. They're waving the flags in support of a foreign country as part of American imperial expansionism. I don't know what we're doing there. I don't know why NATO needs to keep doing what they're doing. And perhaps that's it. If only I knew. You exercise, if you work out, you're right wing. The media said that several years ago and everybody made fun of them for it. We have this story, fat activist who thinks childhood obesity is a myth, reveals how she feeds her kids dessert first after divorcing fitness freak husband who lost it when their daughter ate a stick of butter. Oh, man. Okay, this country is very fat, but it is like weirdly tied to the left. I don't get it, but it is. And I wonder if a big component of the culture war is short-term versus long-term thinking. First-order thinking and things like that. So you have the left saying, eat what you want, feel good, do what feels good. And the right thinking like this will be bad for us in the long run. And then it is. So I got a segment for you that's pretty funny. Lizzo last year said that she was the beauty standard. And Phil Labonte had a great response to this. He just tweeted it actually today. You're beautiful, just like Lizzo, would be understood as an insult. 'Twould. It certainly would. Let me read the story for you. Daughter ate a stick of butter. Wow. Virginia Soul Smith, a fat activist, has sparked controversy for saying childhood obesity is not a problem. It is. Anti-fat bias is, and that she lets her children eat whatever they want, even against the wishes of her former husband, who caught his daughter eating a stick of butter. Oh, that reminds me. I've got to enter in my macros for the day. I did not put in my morning macros. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I ate. You ready? I got 1 scoop of protein powder from Jocko Milk. So good. 1 bottle of Fairlife milk. A half cup of white rice flour. A tablespoon of butter. And 1 tablespoon of mixed berry preserves. That's my breakfast. Okay, wait. I put something in wrong. What did I put in wrong? What did I accidentally? Oh, I accidentally added an extra white rice flour. There we go. Nope, I accidentally added something else too. This is not right. You see, this is important to track your macros. Make sure you're getting it right. So, what do we have? Oh, okay, I accidentally put in an extra. How did I do that? There we go. 95 carbs, 22 fat, 51 protein for breakfast. I didn't used to eat breakfast for a long time. Now that I got a personal trainer, it changed everything. I gotta say 2 things. 1, when we saw, like Michaela Peterson talks about eating only rack of lamb and how it improved her life. A lot of people were thinking this carnivore diet was the thing. Joe Rogan talked about it. You only eat meat. I think Michaela said this. I could be wrong. It's been a long time. The issue is not that it's a better diet. The issue is you've eliminated bad things from your diet. Here's what I found. So I was doing a low-carb, high-fat diet for like 2 years, and I lost a ton of weight. The reality was I had started eating better foods, a lot less processed foods, and a lot of cream, a lot of meats, and that helped. Before this, it was kind of whatever. And it was a lot of hibachi. We like rice and meat. But the sugar sauce all over it. And I thought it was mostly fun. I was getting massive carbs, massive fat, and moderate protein. Not enough. Going low carb allowed me to increase my protein, and that's what I was lacking. I got a personal trainer, and he said, increase your carb, decrease your fat, increase your protein. And now I feel better than ever. I think the issue is the keto diet was like a general improvement on my existing diet. But I think my current diet now, tracking macros and micronutrients, has been massively beneficial. So I think the issue with carbs is that Americans eat too many of them and don't realize just how much they're getting. It's nuts. Like 1 can of Coke is like 50, and people might have a handful of those per day. I have 223 carbs per day. It's I don't know. I would describe it as more than I've ever had, but it's not that much. That's what I got to say. Tracking this stuff changes everything. The reason I bring that up, the eating a stick of butter is insane. Now that I'm actually tracking, I'm like, wow, I was getting a lot of fat in my diet. I got to be honest, I felt good. I really did. I lost a lot of weight. I was skating really, really well, and I felt really, really good. I don't know that there was a dramatic need to change my diet, but going with a personal trainer, I'm going to go with what he says. And the personal training, I think, is what made the change. I'm assuming diet had an impact, but I'm going to stress this, like the low carb, high fat diet for me, I felt pretty good. And you guys can actually watch the videos where I shed a whole bunch of weight. I was skating a lot. I was feeling good. I feel really, really good now. I think the difference is I've added lifting. I think the lifting has dramatically changed things. I definitely needed that. Now, a tablespoon of butter. That is a lot of fat. And each stick of butter, I think, is like, what is it, 8 tablespoons? Daughter ate a stick of butter. I'd throw up. Yo, putting a nice little thing of butter with the half cup of rice, it's basically 2 pancakes, 2 rice pancakes. And then I put a half tablespoon on each with jam. And I've been keeping fat pretty down. It's kind of crazy. The crazy thing is, I had 2 scoops of spinach dip with some chips, and that's like 30 grams of fat. Yo, it's nuts trying to keep your